Welcome to the Development Agenda Program broadcast on thiskingdom.com platform. My name is Mzimkulu Stead. I'm your host. Today we are having a chat on the micro, small and medium enterprises sector of Lesotho, which is fraught with many challenges. We're going to explore the opportunities that SMEs have to exploit, the challenges that they face, as well as relevant interventions that must be made so that this sector becomes the real engine of economic growth. On my platform, I have the Chief Executive Officer of Sweet Mellow Concepts, Lesei Lesei. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stead.
Let's first explain. Can you explain for us, describe what Sweet Mellow Concepts is?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Stead. The Sweet Mellow Concepts is a product development company. It was born as a result of realizing the need in the Kingdom of Lesotho, and maybe even in the region, for assistance in the SME sector, because we realized that when they develop their products, the products are never really designed in such a way that they are market ready. They're designed in such a way that they're investor ready. And we decided that we need to package an outfit that would then talk to the conceptual development of the products, but also talk about the investment drives within the products, but also a critical component of it as well being the education. Initially, we started with in the agricultural space because I think it was the viticulture, and we moved into other product developments in terms of the table condiments. So that's where the journey actually really began. It started actually with the viticulture, the packaging of the wines, and then it started evolving from there into now investment readiness for the SMEs.
Now, the micro, small and medium enterprises,
yes,
SMEs as they are known,
yes,
have been broached as the bone marrow of economic growth.
Sure.
In some sectors or circles, they've been broached as the backbone of the economic development of this country.
Yes,
Can you unpack that characterization and explain whether it is real in Lesotho?
It is real in Lesotho. It is really in a sense that we're talking about we call it an informal sector or by Tsukudi. And when you look at the component of that, they are running legal businesses, maybe not necessarily formally registered, they are running legal businesses, but also critically they employ thousands of people. And the only thing I think it's always been the dimension that is missing is to say how do you then transition to becoming a compliant. But when you walk through the streets of Maseru, there is a myriad of micro enterprises that are operating on our pavements, in the small shopping centers, all around, in the marketplaces all around. So that is actually says to you that there's a lot of economic contribution that they're doing and employment and self-sufficiency. Although I must say that the response is not necessarily never really an intention to respond to anything that is a social need. Of course, we would say that poverty is a social need because we need to address poverty. But a lot of them are survivalist versus where you say they are actually driving and they are solving a particular need in the community. It's the lack of formal jobs maybe that will drive people into these micro enterprises.
Okay. With that prominent role that they play in economic growth.
Yes, sir.
I want us to look at the various sectors in which SMEs are found, and whether they apply their trade effectively in those sectors.
The dominant ones in Lesotho, you'd say it's the food production. People sell food. There is also the fruit markets as well. But we're seeing a transition into the tech as well, but also predominantly owned by the foreigners. But we need to transition to where we say that what needs there are in the country and how best can we then fill in those needs. when you look at the agriculture as the primary sector, we're not doing so well in terms of the production. There are pockets of Lesotho that actually have started agricultural produce, but we need to strengthen that. We need to make sure that it grows. We need to make sure that it expands. And we're talking about food security. We need to see to it that it expands to that robustness and that greater level where we are saying that we also are able to respond to the needs that the country in general should be responding to.
In the agricultural sector or farming sector,
yes,
are they really in the production of food or ensuring food security, or are they just peasants that are survivors, like you said, that is surviving for sustenance, growing food for sustenance, not for commercial purposes or to sell or even to export to foreign markets? Where are they?
It's subsistence. It's subsistence, really, to be honest with you, as you say in that state. It's subsistence living. You see the pockets of them that are saying that maybe the surplus we can or sell into the market. But we need to say, encourage to say what are the critical needs. But at this stage, it's really purely subsistence more than anything else.
So there's not much that has to be done.
There's still a lot that needs to be done in ensuring that we increase productive capacities, we increase the output so that some of these products or many of these products can actually reach the markets.
Okay. Before we go to challenges,
yes, but
I want us to look at the opportunities
yes,
that SMEs maybe are constrained to exploit or fail to exploit.
Yes.
What kind of opportunities are there?
Okay, in terms of the opportunities are there, and I always say when I intimate or maybe in public discussions that anybody that tells me that there are no opportunities in this country does not know the real truth and the real gist of where the opportunities are. We've got the opportunities in various trade agreements that we are signatory to, that we can send products into other countries, that we can sell products into other countries. The difference is that we need to communicate the information better to Lesotho so that Lesotho are aware of these opportunities. So you've got, in recent times, we've ratified the African Continental Free Trade Agreement area. We say that we can export into the rest of the continent, into the region, SACU, SADC, and the rest of the continent. That is your starting point. Intracontinental trade. So opportunities, real opportunities lie therein. We've got AGOA. We've talked about AGOA many times, and to say that it's got 6,600 product lines that you're able to export into the Americas. So those are huge opportunities. We've got European partnership agreements. These are huge opportunities that we can say Lesotho can leverage, the MSMEs can leverage. How do they leverage these opportunities? They need to be structured into contract production environments where we say that maybe MSMEs in this particular area, would you consider focusing on production of potatoes, for instance? And then we know that specific catchment produces potatoes and for export, and we're able to make the quantities that the buyers require when we do the export activities. So the opportunities, real opportunities are there. So it's always saying, how do we then manage the contract farming arrangement so that these opportunities are sort of blanketed in areas and people are able to take advantage of these opportunities at this stage?
SMEs constitute more than 70% of the private sector.
Yes.
And the 20% or so is a large scale business.
Yes.
But can we be realistic that really they grab these opportunities? Are they cognizant of AGOA? Are they cognizant of the economic partnership agreement? Are they cognizant of the Africa tripartite free trade area or the continental free trade area?
Yes.
Or even to export to neighboring countries, South Africa, even domestically?
Yes.
They might be, wanting to sell to government. The government being their client.
Yes.
or the large business being client? Are they really grabbing such opportunities?
Our starting point is always the information dissemination. So we haven't really done a fantastic job in disseminating the information to Lesotho. So that's our starting point. So we need to disseminate the information. But over and above the dissemination of the information that is total, we need to water down the language of international trade. It can be intimidating. It is over the top, and it requires a level of digesting it so that you get to the point where really an average Lesotho who runs a micro business is able to understand the language. And it took me 3 years for me to understand fully the international trade language. So, and they speak in abbreviations and all of those. So I think we need to get to a point where we say, how do we water down the language without losing the meaning and the context of what we're trying to communicate, and then make it easily digestible for an average micro business or small business to understand, to say that these are the opportunities, these are the things that you're able to need to come across. But then again, I'll come back to you and say that, but that's why you have a company like the Sweet Mellow Concepts to be able to help you digest and move down and move the language and explain it and walk you through the language in the most comfortable environment, your working environment, so that you understand what is it that we're trying to do, what is it that we're talking about when we talk about export readiness, what is it that we're talking about foreign markets, what is it that we're talking about compliance issues. So you have a company like the Sweet Mellow Concepts to be able to help you, guide you through it. Because then I think when you are in a setting where it's a one-on-one setting, it is better for you to understand than when you're in a group environment and it's intimidating and you're looking at these difficult terms and you are able to ask questions. So what does it mean? When you're talking about incoterms, what are we talking about in customs language? So I think that's why you have an outfit like the Sweet Mellow Concept to be able to respond to that and also just direct you into the opportunities at the same time.
Definitely. Now let's venture into challenges.
Yes.
Obstacles and bottlenecks that face SMEs, and that was set as impediments for SMEs to apply their trade in this SME sector. Maybe before we get there, in the last 2-3 years, government failed to make payments or to honor its orders to SMEs, plunging them further into debt, plunging them into chaos in terms of sustainability. How can that be kept?
It is always a very difficult conversation to have, because I think the procurement environment within the government sector has been a problem with the state, and it being the problem, it also rendered the private sector that is easily corruptible. And then you get to a point where you see the MSMEs become inflate prices because they're trying to pay or juice or oil the heads of the people in the procurement environments within the government. And this has not helped the country and the fiscal management very well. And you end up with a country where they say that there is no money in the coffers, government coffers, because people have inflated the prices. And then and you pay, and the priorities is always given to certain individuals versus over certain individuals. Whereas honest trading MSMEs, you find that they are the ones that are taking the knock in all of that, because people have become greedy. So that is a challenge. But also, what is also critical in another area within the MSMEs is the fact that MSMEs need to also work while they still micro on setting up compliance structures, governance structures, management structures, financial control structures within themselves, so that when the buyers come and ask for these policies and procedures and the documents, you are able to produce them, even if you don't have the capacity to employ at that level. But you are able to produce this because these things are ready. That's also a critical area where we are playing as the Sweet Mellow Concept, to say, start preparing for the future. Let's not have the knee-jerk reactions. Let's start preparing for the future so that you are able to then respond to the critical needs when the opportunities are presented to you.
Now let's talk about access to finance. I know there are a few, if I can say, financing mechanisms for SMEs,
Yes.
or access to finance mechanisms.
Yes.
We have the partial credit guarantee schemes or partial credit guarantee funds, which are managed by different entities, and also the opportunity for SMEs to go to the banks to get funding. But I think that one really is problematic.
Yes.
I cannot talk about the finance part of the challenge for SMEs.
That is also, I'll always say, I think it's the jury is still out on these instruments. The jury is still out, and I believe that Lesotho's small, micro, medium enterprises need to go and test if these instruments really work. The only way that we'll ever find out if these instruments really work is when Lesotho go out and actually test and make the requisitions and make the applications to ensure that these instruments work. That way, we will be able to come up with to say, are they working? If they are not working, why they are not working, and how best do we then reconfigure these instruments to respond to the needs of the MSMEs on the ground. Access to finance, as you say, is a critical issue in the country. A lot of these MSMEs are at the startup level, and you often find that the person is trading and they're doing well. But when they are supposed to go, when we would either go to the bank and to seek loans, maybe for expansion or to add inventory, or you find that is not working as well. But then again, also it responds to the systems that we need to have within the MSMEs. Are they banking? Are they using personal bank accounts, or are they using business accounts? Because that way then you're able to monitor effectively the performance. So the fight is not one way, it's two way. We need to, in as much as we're confronting the financial institutions and the financial instruments to be able to respond to the MSME needs, we also need to outfit the component of making sure that the MSMEs are able to putting together control systems and instrument structures within themselves, so that they are able to easily or better access the financial instruments. So far, the work on the side of the MSMEs hasn't been taken seriously. And this is where, us at the Sweet Mellow Concepts, we said that, okay, maybe this is one area that we need to start.
Okay, let's bring together two factors.
Yes.
Access to markets.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it has been explored, that the issues of market intelligence, issues of packaging. Can you say a little about access to markets, both domestic and global markets?
The market intelligence. We would say we are not doing enough to give the information properly. We need to do more. We need to do more to widen how we disseminate this information. Because even if you do the road shows and you do the drives in the Lesotho, there's always a section of the population that you're missing out. It's never everybody that you have in the same room, right? What do we need to do? What other ways can we become creative with to ensure that people understand what is available in the market and what opportunities are there in the market? You have the government institutions like the LNDC that would try and communicate, but we need a more accessible LNDC. We need a more reachable LNDC, for instance. But also you need the private sector that will be able to assist these government agencies with the market intelligence and communicating the information to the MSMEs. This is really, really important. What I've come to understand, and I think all of us need to be realistic about this title, is the fact that government alone should not be left to do this job by themselves, because they're inundated. There's so many other things within the red tape that they have to go through in order for them to get the approvals. But you need the responsive private sector. So at this point, we need a responsive private sector.
Okay, let's take a short break. We'll delve on this issue after the break.
Thank you, Lyd.
Welcome back. We are still on the topic of SMEs, exploring the opportunities that they should exploit and challenges that they face, the bottlenecks and obstacles that they face in their trade. I have Lesei Lesei from Sweet Mellow Concepts. Lesei, before break, we're discussing the issue of the challenge of markets.
Yes.
We are talking about agencies that facilitate market access. Just maybe briefly, so that we can get to the challenge of technology.
Look, again, the testator, as I say, we've got these markets that we have access to. And I think one of the critical areas that we need to focus on as a country, and maybe proactively from the perspective of us as a Sweet Mellow Concept, is to be able to identify what commodities are being asked out of us as a country, as Lesotho. We've got some of our unique characteristics of cooler climate, and so we're not prone to pesticides in a way that somebody else in a hotter climate would be able to do that. How do we exploit that and actually turn that into an advantage, economic advantage, to you as a country, to you as a small business? And one thing that we haven't done properly and effectively is the commodity advice. When you take an example, in that 6,600 product lines that the AGOA is offering, what commodities are there? What can we do with those? To economize those things. So that's the one part. In the EPA, what commodities are they asking out of us? We still continue to focus on the maize. We still continue to focus on sorghum and beans and potatoes. But if you're really seriously saying that we want economic growth, do you want to limit yourself to the 4 commodities? You would know in the testator that we used to export asparagus. And it's a big commodity. It's expensive in the market. It fetches good prices. Why have we neglected that? And it is something that we've got historical memory of it. We've got institutional memory of asparagus production. Why have we abandoned a product like that? So we need to, and what other, we're talking about pulses now, and funny enough, I was in a meeting with FAO that was sponsored by the FAO. They were talking about commodity advice, and they were talking about the value chains that they have identified in the poultry market, in the piggery market, and to say that it's not enough that we're saying that we're producing chicken or we're producing pork, but what do you do across the value chain? It's the production, it's the packaging. I mean, it's the product, it's the processing, it's the packaging, it's the cold storage, and it's into the retail market, right? So, and to say that, can we now start advising Basotho to focus on one area? We maybe eradicate the greed of saying that Lesei says, no, I want to own the entire value chain. You're stretching yourself thin. You will fail. And we need to start working on those things. You need to say, how do we do better in saying, if you're a packaging guy, focus on the packaging. Offer packaging solutions to all the other producers. Ensure that you strengthen yourself in the packaging. If you're doing the processing, go buy from the producers. Process. Focus on the processing. And the list goes on. And I think that these are the key areas that we say, because therein then you say that there will be real benefits.
Yes. Let's now move to access to technology,
yes,
and also tie it with managerial skills.
Yes. Technology is always a very critical one because it forms part of the controls within the business and management of the business and response to the business needs. There are 2 ways that we can do it. It's either it's adaptation or we do innovation. And this should be driven by the demand. And it also speaks to the skills development within the same breath. And it's incumbent upon the business owners to ensure that they are abreast of the technological advances and the new technologies, but also can collaborate with other young people that are being trained in technology to maybe solve unique problems within the businesses. Because it's not everything that is that you're going to get from somewhere else that would respond to your critical needs. Maybe sometimes you need to develop in-house technologies. And this require that you need to partner and collaborate with the young people. And funny enough, we are producing technicians in the country in large numbers. How do you then say, how do you use them and outfit them to be able to respond to the MSME needs? Yes.
I want us to, of course, already you have ventured into the interventions that have been made to address the challenges that we talked about.
Yes.
I want us to look at heavy lifting concept. Maybe you can explain or what it entails and how you apply it in
the Sweet and Mellow Concepts context. So heavy lifting is say we meet Siteto Incorporation as a small or micro business, and they are ready to go and they want to grow as a business. So we start at an area we do a baseline assessment. A baseline assessment is we need to understand exactly where the business is, as it is, what it needs, what do they have, and what don't they have. And in that way, we are able to then say, if we develop solutions, those solutions are unique to the business. And this is an area where we haven't really done a fantastic job in terms of identifying the needs. We sort of think that the business are blanketed into needing the same things, maybe generic to some degree, but not all the way. So the heavy lifting is say, once we understand and we've outlined what is it that the business requires, we are able then to put together the set of interventions that will then start assisting the business to develop its core mandate and develop its own growth plan to a point where we say that it transitions from micro to small to medium, and then to a large enterprise. And this is, it's almost what we say that it's an organic growth that is taken. It's not something that is going to happen overnight. It won't happen within 3 weeks. It is organic growth. It is a slow process. It is an arduous process. It requires that when you talked about capacity building. When you do the capacity building, each intervention requires a level of education. A level of education on the part of the owner. Before the team or the staff understands, the owner has to understand and has to master that. Then we can move to another intervention, so that they are fully cognizant and fully aware of what is it that they need to look out for in ensuring that they perform well as a business.
Maybe let's see, how do SMEs maybe venture into spheres that are not yet at play now, say, yes, the green economy. We are still in the traditional business sense, the green economy, where I think technology will come in. What impediments are there for SMEs to venture into the green economy?
Understanding. And maybe that's our initial place. Do they understand the concept of green economy? Do they understand the concept of environmental protection? Do they understand what they need to preserve, what they need to handle with care, all of that? A lot of it, when you really think deeply about it, it's the mindset. So we need to change the mindset. So you trek up the mountains of Lesotho, beautiful scenery, but you get to Lahalong Labar, that district, and there's a nice spot where people normally host picnics there.
Yes.
But the problem is, when they leave, and they've done their little parties, they leave their waste. They don't carry their waste with. And we've got a designated area where we can throw away your waste. They don't do that. That already tells you that people don't understand what we're talking about. And we have a huge potential as a country for the green economy. And people don't understand the waste management issue. We start there. And then it'll then apply to technology. So how do you develop the technologies that respond to the green economy? Okay. Once they understand their everyday behavior. And remember, it starts in the house. It does not start when you're an adult. It starts with you inculcating those values with your children at home.
Let's have a touch on business incubation.
Yes, sir.
And I think this concept has been dealt with by a number of SME development agencies.
Yes,
I can name them. But is that concept fully understood and appreciated in its proper context?
No.
That across the entire incubation ecosystem, you have all this interplay of business skills development. You have market access, maybe editing, tail end. We have the access to finance, access to technology, access to raw materials, across the value chain until you have your SME now ready for the market.
That is a sad issue, because we get into the space of the incubation. You see, it's like it's an ICU situation, touch and go. You know when somebody's in the ICU, the only thing you can ever do is brush their hand because they are subconscious. We seem to have the subconscious behavior when it comes to incubation. We're not responding to incubation the way that we're supposed to be doing. We're ticking the boxes. We're not saying you need patience to deal with an entrepreneur. You need mentoring. You need education. And it has to be a slow education. You need to understand the commodities. You need to understand the commodity advice. You need to say that how do you build the systems? Have you got time to assist the small business to build the system? Which is why the concept of incubation cannot be done with a huge number of businesses. Okay. You probably need to focus on a handful of businesses and then start working with them. Earlier on, you and I discussed the issue of we expect an SMME to understand financial management, something that took somebody 4 years to study. We expect them to understand it in 6 months. How realistic is that? It is not realistic.
So in other words, I was saying incubation should form part of the long journey of enterprise development.
Yes.
But now, pre-incubation and post-incubation, there must also be the continuum of business development must carry on.
Absolutely. Because then you need to ensure that by the time you graduate them out, they have developed the necessary discipline to be able to handle every single aspect of that business, to be able to understand every single component of what is it that you're trying to achieve with them. And the only way that they do that is when you provide an environment of consistency.
Yes.
Yeah, so it cannot be rapid.
Okay. Now let's venture into growth strategies.
Yes.
What kind of growth strategy mechanisms can we put in place for SMEs so that they graduate from micro to small to medium until they become large? In that trajectory, and how is it maintained? Because it is said, even I think the FinScope study indicates that 70% of SMEs die on the third anniversary or third year in business.
I have yet to come across a micro, small, medium enterprise that has put a growth plan in place to date. I have yet to fund that. I have yet to come across a micro, small, medium enterprise that even understands to say how do we develop a template for growth plan. All they know is they want to trade and make money. Okay. And a lot of the times here at home is because they're responding to hunger.
Can you inject the issue of entrepreneurial spirit that I think should be driving force before money? Because I think money is a reward.
Yes.
And then if you have this entrepreneurial ability or spirit, then it will reward you with profits.
Listed, you will know that the most successful businesses in the world to date were responding to a social need. Jack Ma in China with Alibaba, he was responding to the need of a consolidated marketplace where you are able to go online, identify the product that you're looking for, and you speak to the supplier. And since the advent of the Jack Ma, we've seen Amazon as an e-commerce platform respond to that, because then they realize how efficient that Alibaba is. Alibaba is still there to date, and it works.
Then therefore it talks to the issue of sustainability.
Sustainability.
Then how do we, because sustainability talks to the ability of an SME to cater for the needs of the current generation without necessarily compromising the future generations, which means there will be a handing down of the business to the next generation.
Yes.
And we've seen Lesotho's business die, and the next generation, which is the son, daughters, find the business no more. So what do we ensure that the business is sustainable to the extent that even the future generation can benefit?
So I'm always saying to people when we're doing it, especially the SMEs that we're supporting, you need to understand that you're not creating this thing so that it dies. We wanted to help you to shape this thing in such a way that your grandchildren would be able to continue. So we've got examples in South Africa, and in the winelands. When you really delve deep into this, study the history of those farms. One, they're family run. Two, a lot of them have been in existence for over 300 years. Ask yourself a question: why? Right? So you need to have a vision that is greater than yourself, a vision that is greater than your children, immediate children. It has to be a vision that will say that I will not have my the generations that come after me suffer ever again. And I will make sure that they build, and each generation will come into this business and take it to the next level. Because I know that it's sustainable, I know that we can carry this through, I know that it is responding to something critical and something that is meaningful, and it contributes to the livelihoods of people. So I think for me that is the one area. Understanding that an entrepreneur is almost like a parent. The people that you employ, you're responsible for. And those people are responsible for families. And you are contributing something greater than yourself as an entrepreneur. Once we change that and shift, then we're moving in the right direction.
Maybe as we come to the close of the program, how can we inject this spirit of sustainable development, in this case, sustainable business or sustainable enterprise, if the conditions that drove a Lesotho into business are poverty, deprivation, squalor, because someone who doesn't have a job now thinks he doesn't get a job, the alternative or plan B would be to be in business.
Yeah. Our starting point is pointing people in the right direction. And my focus is always to say young people. Let's point young people in the right direction. The right direction is we need to point them to where the opportunities are. And I'm saying to you that the state of opportunities are there for the export markets. Let's help them exploit those opportunities.
Thank you very much. We have come to the close of our program. We have explored the SME sector in Lesotho, critically looking at the challenges, the obstacles, and bottlenecks that face SMEs. We have further looked at the opportunities that SMEs are exposed to, but sometimes fail to exploit due to various reasons that we have talked about. We've also explored the different strategies for growth of SMEs and their sustainability. On the program, I had Lesei Lesei, who is the CEO of Sweet Mellow Concepts. Thank you, Nat.
Thank you, Dr.